Hey everyone, welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Now in this video, I'm going to discuss a new interview with Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett of Radio Silence regarding Scream 6. Now in this interview, they reveal more information about their approach to making the sequel to Scream 5 and how they are willing to risk it all in Scream 6. Let's go! So in a new Screen Rant article highlighting Empire's interview of Matt and Tyler, we see the following headline: Scream 6 will risk everything to subvert fan expectation. Scream 6 co-director Tyler Gillett says the fast-tracked slasher sequel will risk everything in order to subvert fans' expectations of what's next. Now, the key portion of the article I want to discuss is this. Having proven itself as a box office hit, the fifth Scream film was left with just one more question lingering in its bloody wake. Would it be followed up with a sequel? Fans were delighted to discover that there will indeed be a Scream 6, and its arrival is barely over a year away. Bettinelli-Olpin and Gillett are returning to direct the upcoming film, as are Scream 2022 writers James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. And as Gillett told Empire recently, the need to pull out all the stops to make Scream 6 avoid any and all expectations has injected the production with a risk-it-all attitude. Quote, "This movie has to be willing to risk it all in order to subvert all of those expectations. And we're so far down the rabbit hole of Scream movies that it's all up for grabs at this point." So this is quite an incredible statement here from Tyler, and there could be a lot of implications from what he just said in this article, in this interview, because if you think about it, let's look at what he says. This movie has to be willing to risk it all to subvert all of those expectations, meaning all the expectations that we have going into this movie. They are willing to risk it all in this story of Scream 6 to completely catch us off guard. So that could trickle down to basically every component of this film, right? That could mean the characters, the story arc for certain characters that we expect to see could be completely different. So one example, like Sam, they've set Sam up to really be the new final girl. They clearly want her to be the new Sidney Prescott moving forward. And I have said since Scream 5 came out that I really would love to see them flip that script. We think that's what's going to happen. I'm almost sure, certainly that's what they're going to do. But what if they don't? What if they say, you know what? Everyone's coming into this movie expecting it to be Sam repeating what we saw in 5. You know, she's the new final girl. What if they flip it over and they're going to risk it all and say, you know what? We're going to turn her into Billy Loomis 2.0. We're going to have her go ahead and become a Ghostface killer, which I've been wanting to see. I know I'm probably in the minority on that view, but I have been wanting to see that. And I have been very vocal on live chats and here on videos that I've been wanting to see in 6, her continue to go down where she started with Richie and just go downward spiral. And let's see Tara rise up to the occasion. And Tara is actually the one who's the new Prescott. She is the one who's going to carry on into 7. I personally want to see that. Now, I don't know if that's what this means. Again, we're speculating here because for obvious reasons, but we have to theorize. But we can certainly take what they say and draw some lines and say, well, it could go here, it could go there. That's one possibility. Is the character arcs. It could be for all, from Mindy and Chad. It could be all of those things. We expect Chad and Mindy to last probably most of the movies. I think Mindy probably will survive 6. So what if she's the opening kill? I mean, these are the kind of things I'm talking about. These are things that subvert expectations, and they're willing to risk it all, which is quite a bold statement. which, man, it sounds to me like they're saying, you know what, we're gonna take some dangerous, potentially risky moves. And then he reinforces that here. He really does. He's basically willing to risk it all. He says the word risk. So this sounds to me like they're literally trying to think of, how can we shock the audience? What can we do that they're not expecting and that we can completely fool them in 6? That's what it sounds like. And again, it doesn't have to just be characters. It could be the storyline. We could have a storyline that completely goes against the flow. Something we've never seen before. Completely new. And there's 1,000 things you could do. I mean, you literally could come up with all types of scenarios. There's been some great suggestions and discussions just here on the channel about this, where, you know, Sam could be framed. She could be set up to be a killer, and then, you know, she thinks she's a killer, but she doesn't know for sure because of her mental condition, and she's fighting all these images of Billy, and she's seeing, you know, people get killed. Anyway, someone frames her, and then Tara has to go and try to prove, and Sydney, and Gail, and have to try to prove that she's innocent. I mean, that's one storyline that would be totally different, you know, really than what we've seen. You know, in this case, because she would be innocent. But there's a lot of different ways that you could do subvert a storyline expectations, right? And then also another one that I'm going to mention is the surroundings. You know, a lot of us are talking about and have been thinking about, where are they going to go for Scream 2? Are they going to copy basically Wes Craven's formula of Scream 2 and go to a college campus somewhere? That's possible. And then you had the comment coming out from Tyler and Matt after Scream 5, you know, basically, actually, I think it was right before it even came out, or no, just after they came out. And he said that there are more stories to be told in Woodsboro. So if you take them literally, then we're expecting a Woodsboro story, which is what I figured they probably would do. But now they're filming in Montreal. So what if they're saying, you know what, we're risking it all. You think we're going to Woodsboro. You think we're going to college. Guess what? We're going to a big city. We're going to do something completely different, never been done in a Scream film, whole different kind of surrounding. That's very possible. Now, there's one thing I do want to talk about here about this quote that bears mentioning. And it's the last sentence that he ends his quote with. And this one has got me even more excited and my brain even going in more directions than the first part here, which I just talked about. But it's where he says this. He says, we're so far down the rabbit hole of Scream movies that it's all up for grabs at this point. And I said, whoa. When I read that line, all of my little check engine lights started going off in my head, because that tells me that everything is up for grabs in the history of the franchise. So they are so down the rabbit hole. The meaning, characters from the past that you thought may have died may be alive and well, my friends. And there's one in particular, and all I'm going to say to those of you who've been on this channel for a while, you already know where I'm going to say. I'm going to say, all aboard, baby. It is time to load up in the Stu train, because this sentence right here gives me even more hope that Stu is involved in their plans for this trilogy, because we're so far down the rabbit hole of Scream movies that it's all up for grabs. That means, yes, Stu's return is up for grabs. Everything's up, it's on the table. And I'm telling you, this sentence right here opened it up, even cracked that door open even more in my mind for the return of Stu Macher. I think it absolutely is in play. I thought it's been in play from the beginning. You guys know that, even for 5. I think the foundation, there was some groundwork already laid down. But this tells me they are willing to go everywhere. Everything's up for grabs, all the way down to the history of this franchise. That means, you know who else? Angelina from Scream 3, the second killer in Scream 3 that was not revealed, Roman's accomplice. She is up for grabs. She could return. I'm telling you, we already know about Kirby, so Kirby's up for grabs. These are scenarios and situations where, when you're going down the Scream rabbit hole of all these films in the history, they're going to pull everything up for grabs and say anything can happen. Anything can happen. We're going to subvert expectations. Guess what? Here's Angelina. Remember her? All of this stuff, guys. Here's Stu. These things absolutely can happen. So this alone right here, just last sentence, got me more fired up than any part of this article, because I believe that they are actually, it's on the table. I believe they are considering everything. There's nothing from the history of the franchise that is not being considered to be included in Scream 6. I really believe it. They're at the very least, it's a discussion point. They are talking it through. All right. And finally, guys, the last thing I want to cover real quick in the article is this. It says, for Scream fans, Gillet's attitude brings back a bit of the familiar anxiety that surrounded Scream 2022. On the one hand, it's thrilling to hear that the production is striving to really up the ante on everything that's come before it. On the other hand, however, there is the threat of going too far and taking Scream into territory that risks derailing the franchise. Now, I completely agree. This is absolutely well said. I could not have said it better myself. The fear that, and I've said many times, guys, Scream 6, this is the most important film of Radio Silence's career, because I believe that this is the one that's going to show us either they are ready to go and they have got the helms, firmly in their hands here, the reins rather, and we're going forward with a good movie, and we're going to get 7. They're going to complete the trilogy, or they're gonna show that they're not quite ready, because this is a full-blown Radio Silence Scream movie, right? They're not. I believe that the tip of the hat to Wes is going to be much less in this one. I think there'll be elements there, of course, but nothing like Scream 5. Scream 5 was like half Craven, half Radio Silence, if you had to, kind of the influences. So Scream 6, I don't think that's going to be the case. That's done. The Craven mantle, they've gently and reverently set it down, and 6 is going to be a Radio Silence Scream. The author of this article brings out my concern is you have to be careful, because I'm a little nervous, because the time frame is super quick. We're filming in June, we're releasing in March. You're not giving yourself any time for corrections, reshoots, or anything else. It's not a lot of time, and it's so fast. And I just hope that, as excited as I am, guys, and I'm excited to hear how they're willing to risk everything to try to fool us in 6 and try to catch us off guard, and that everything's up for grabs. Those things are all exciting, as I just talked about. But the downside, or the flip side of that, is that as exciting as it is for it to be great, I am also just as nervous that it could go the other way, that it could backfire on them, not on purpose, of course, but it could just, the execution and all of it in the story has to be great. So my concern is that is, that's just going to be my concern until the movie comes out. We're not going to know until we see it. So do I think it's going to be a good movie? I am being very optimistic. I really am going in at high expectations, and I'm excited to see the true Radio Silence thumbprint on a Scream film, like for 100% Radio Silence. So yes, they can absolutely make a great movie, but I'm also cautiously concerned a little bit about all the things that I've talked about. The timing, how quickly things are going. It seems like they're really got the pedal to the metal. And now combining that with trying to really go out of the box, way out of the box, I'm afraid the risk is there that they could go a little bit too far over the boundaries and turn it into something that just doesn't work. So those are my concerns, and those are also the things I'm excited about. So it's going to be a double-edged sword, and we won't know if it's going to land, if that jet's going to land on the runway until March 31st, 2023. So lots more to talk about, a whole year to talk about this movie. And as we continue to get casting, and we start to get casting, continue to get more news, get marketing, get trailers, all that stuff, we'll learn more, and it will help us. I think it'll help us kind of get a feel for what's going to happen, and if it looks like it's going to be too crazy or not. Hopefully not. All right, guys, listen, I'm going to leave it there for now, but I just wanted to bring this to you tonight, or today, or this morning, or whenever it is you're watching this. I'm actually making this at nearly 1 a.m. where I'm at. So anyway, it doesn't matter what time of day it's always a good time of the day. So, all right, guys, I want to know what you have to say. I want to hear your comments, your theories, your ideas below. Let me know, what do you think about this quote from Tyler? And are you concerned that radio silence may take things too far when they say they're willing to risk it all? I mean, that's a big language. Do you think that there's a possibility that it may not go well? Or do you think it's exactly what needs to happen? I want to hear your opinions and thoughts below. So leave your comments now and let's start discussing it together. Well, that's going to be it for this update, guys, but I'll be back soon with more Scream and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thanks for watching.